those are diversions too.
Yeah, so much.
But again, remember we told you years ago, we said, time's going to come, you're going to be putting those credit cards in the machines and the machine going to go burp. Well, it's happening already, and you will see it accelerating. For those of you who doubt what I say, start doing some research on Wells Fargo and that other HBC game, and you're going to start happening at Chase, and then it's going to start accelerating. So we told you years ago to take your fiat out of them banks.
Get you some
Don't keep
silver.
any more in there than you need to keep those accounts operating while transition is being made. Because what they're going to do, they're going to bail in to save themselves, and they will sacrifice you to do so. This is again why we've been telling you for years to start getting silver. Now, not that because that's the money, not that you wouldn't get gold. It's just that when you get gold, you're not going to be transferring your everyday affairs in gold. That would be your backup. Not only that, the silver is going to jump far higher than you could ever imagine.
And you're going to be able to get some gold with a few pieces of silver.
Yeah. Keep in mind, silver has more industrial uses and also medical uses than gold does.
Absolutely.
But keep in mind what we've been telling you for years, cosmologically, gold is the alchemical metal for the sun. Copper is the alchemical metal for Venus. Silver is the alchemical metal for the moon. And so the moon economy on the earth controlling the blood flow and the movement of the waters is where you get moon or eco in agriculture from in its dynamics. And so that is the money. And therefore, in the constitution of the principles of the Asiatic nation, gold and silver coin is the only thing that's used universally as a general rule in contractual agreement for the satisfying of debts. So it cannot be paid without gold or silver coin until such time, and this is after thousands and thousands and thousands of years that we have changed that process. And we have not changed that constitution of operations on Midgard. And therefore, they give you something else and tell you it's money, they're lying to you. Therefore, credit is not money. Federal Reserve notes are not money. And you've not been allowed to handle money for years. Keep that in mind, not to divert you from the subject matters that we're talking about at the moment.
Mercy and Freeman, your question about what's meant by a gray, I think somebody else responded, but yes, grays are ETs or alien beings.
Not new.
Nope, been around. Some say that they're not even biological.
That's a loose name. You got that right. Some of them, yes, a few of them are.
Some are
are actually biological robots.
Right, that's what I mean.
You got that right. Many of them are simply, they don't have what the soul that you talk about. They take orders. You might call it biological AI with some of them. But again, like I said before, I don't divert people to that because many people aren't what you would call in the frame of mind to handle that. And we have a tendency to keep getting diverted from things that you need to address in front of you. You know, it's sort of like you've heard me always say, why have a discussion with people what's on the dark side of the moon when they can't get across town without getting profiled? So I more or less try to deal with mundane things, down to earth things that help people take responsibility to solve a lot of our problems here in Midgard, so you can prepare for other things. It's sort of like the principle of how dare you claim to love God you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see by the day. Again, my position has always been, why discuss the dark side of the moon when we don't even know the principles of this firmament that we know as Midgard or Earth, when most people don't even know that this particular Earth is Midgard. So why are we going to discuss things that are beyond us? My issue is let's start solving some of the problems before us, meaning that let's start eating the plate of dinner that's before us before we start arguing about dessert. Not that dessert is not relevant.
I see a couple of as we get ready to. I'm not going to miss this opportunity to, particularly since I know this is real. There's several questions, or a couple of questions, not several. Turtle Hustle says, "How does stacking gold and silver protect us during this economic meltdown?"
It doesn't.
Huh?
That concept is also misrepresented too.
Right. And somebody else said it was hard to get silver here. I don't know where here is.
Of course it is.
I'm running at the bottom of the page. If you are in the U.S., if you're in the U.K. jurisdiction, somebody's you can get the silver for as little as 35 notes an ounce, a coin per coin.
And remember, a few months ago it was what, 23?
23. I was so glad that I got 100 plus 200 ounces at 23. That went up $11 an ounce. So if you see that, www.getpaidmore.com. Go visit that site. You can get silver as a preferred customer, or you can get silver as a wealth ambassador and get paid.
And keep this in mind. The reason why we suggest it because we already know that the dark priesthood is attacking the people. Because remember, part of their attack is economic. And so the deal of it is because you're going to have, they'll call them blackouts, whether they're dealing with the institutions that you become dependent on, whether it's talking about the electrical, whether it's talking about movement on the roads, whether it's talking about the institutions that you become dependent on, all of them can be called blackout when they either collapse or they interrupt what you call free flow or fungibility of things in order to cause injury on the people. And in a state of emergency, you can spend silver and gold all around the world, whereas the fiat currencies will be no different than the wrapper from a discarded piece of candy that's thrown in the gutter. It will not work. This is why we tell you, it's not to save you, it's to give you some sense of trade opportunities under emergency causes, emergency times. This is why those who know always carries in their pocket a silver coin. All around the world, those who know what's going on for states of emergency. And so we're encouraging you to get in that state of mind to take responsibility.
Do it now. I mean, I've been hearing you talk about silver for at least 9-10 years that I've known you, and it wasn't until last year that opportunity presented itself, and I have over 400 ounces now.
Every, like over the years, whenever, even if I pull in my pocket every once in a while, 40 years, I pull out silver or gold coin and show it to people to show them what others who know what's going on do as a trained habit for states of emergency. These people keep trusting in these Roman institutions that are collapsing. And in an emergency, you can be out of town or something. That'll get you home. That'll feed you when nothing else will. That's not conjecture. That's fact. Anywhere on the planet.
Okay. Anybody that's still asking about a flash drive, go back and look at the video. You'll see this video. You'll see underneath it says to text USB to 302-345-0500. Look at that. I will send you the link. They'll take you directly to purchase the flash drive, whether you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., if you're in Germany and UK
jurisdiction,
and
I always say Germany or U.S.
Germany, if you're in,
not a place.
Okay, well, if you're in Germany, UK, and
jurisdictions,
and Canaan land jurisdictions, say that, because I will send you a different link than if you're in the U.S. jurisdiction. That's all I'm saying. We have two different links. So because it costs a bit more to send it to those places. So if you are in any of those places, or if you're in somewhere else, let me know so I can find out what it costs to get it to you. You'll have to give me an address. And then if if you're, in Swaziland or something, I need to know so I can check the address.
And for those who don't comprehend why we keep making that correction, because politically, if you say you're in the U.S., that means they have jurisdiction over your state. It's not a place to go. It's not a country to be reached. It's a political jurisdiction, not a geographical location. Keep that in mind. And they will use that against you every time that you state it. Keep that in mind. That's why you see me making those corrections. Not being disagreeable. It's correcting you. You need to know that you're under attack. And the enemy's not without, the enemy is within.
Yes.
The enemy is in the gates already.
They have a thing called the enemy at the gate.
Not at the gate, they're in.
In the gate.
They're in the house.
And if you need the link, I just put this in the chat. If you can't find the Dr. G's official channel, everything goes to 302-345-0500, but just text channel. I will send you the link and you can click on the link and subscribe. So if you're looking for my channel, text channel. If you're looking for a USB drive, text USB drive. If you want to get a ticket for August 27th, text 827. You will get the proper link. And if you're from another jurisdiction other than the U.S. jurisdiction, let me know so I know what to send you. Now, we are at our end of this particular, we were only going to be on it till 8:30 because of Grand Sheik's commitment at 9. And I'm going to give you a minute or a breather in between. I want to thank each and every one of you. We do for tuning in and for your support. All the love I see in the chat. You know, I'm not going to go over what happened earlier. That was painful, but it had to happen. And we need to have a place where we can all, you know, we may not all agree, but we can be in harmony at the same time, even in our not agreeing. So I thank you all for
even in our schisms.
Right.
But recognize the schism.
Yes.
Don't
absolutely.
ignore them. Take responsibility.
Yes. So, and August 27th is going to be amazing. We're going to have all kinds of little things that you are going to want to be a part of on that day. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to being able to be, as we say, up close and personal. And I think you will appreciate that day and the information that you'll be able to glean from it. Again, it will not be televised. It will not be live streamed. And we're not sure if it will even be released, but we will be able to tell you things that you can definitely share with your loved ones and those that you're in association with, and hopefully give you things that you'll be able to take back with you that will assist you further in uplifting fallen humanity. Gershie?
Yeah, so thank you all for spending this time with us this evening, and trust that we helped or encourage many of you to take a strong and deliberated stand in helping the great missionary work of uplifting fallen humanity. Please subscribe to Dr. G's new YouTube channel. Dr. G is official. YouTube requires 1,000, number 12, which many of you who have the old newspaper, the Al Moroccan Star, you'll see the cover of the superliminal on the back of the newspapers. And you see old Moorish lantern, essence of sage, and that's the cover of the superliminal. But anyway, I want to share with the Intuit line because of many of the social political activities that are taking place now at Midgard, to continue on the part of some of the hybrid Europeans to in their continued attack against Asia and Africa and the descendants of the ancient Lemurians, Moors, Hittites, Canaanites, etc., and also with many of the conflicting aspects of the culling practices of the Inquisition and the misrepresentations in government, the de facto operations on multiple levels of human existence, the constructed fictions created for stealing birthrights, and also the suppression of our people on multiple levels and the designed miseducation of our people, particularly in the West or the Maghreb, accentuated by the operatives and the founders of the General Education Board of 1902, set forth by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, which I'm sure you're familiar with that name, Gates, and the foundation behind human destruction coming from the operatives who still operate that foundation. And so I wanted to share some aspects of the respect and reclaiming of your intuitive mind, and some aspects of philosophy and knowledge about it, and why also take in consideration why many people don't talk about it. Or people who do know about it, and particularly the priesthood and people in government, why they don't talk about it. So we're sharing some aspects with.
Before you go any further, Grand Sheik, I want to just request that those of you who are on the chat right now, if you would share on your social media pages and so forth that we are on tonight, because some people did not get the memo that we're not going to be on tomorrow. So if you could share that we're on live right now, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, so here is, we'll share some notes that I could glean, and some supportive aspects. So this would be a brief on the nature of the Moore's Order of the Roundtable, lesson number 12, the superliminal. Respect the intuitive mind. In the ongoing quest by some among us working for human liberation and for self-sought ascension, reflection may serve us well, and we may find ourselves, upon honest observation, buried within the myriad of the twisted dynamics of pseudo-religious dogmatism. This is more often than not conjoined with social political distortions. And while these social solace dogma paradigms of vague and worshipful energy placements are satisfactory for some souls, such artifice chainings are into its sense to be neglectfully restricting and growth retarding for others. And so to assist those who are sympathetic for truth, we choose at this juncture to consider some of the elements related to the intuitive mind. For purposes of cognate-directed considerations, we share some denotative meanings and related synonyms of and for the words intuit and intuition. Intuit. Intuit is a transitive verb, and in its operative sense means to know intuitively. In closer inspection of the intuitive characteristics, we share the denotative meaning of intuition. Intuition. Intuition is a noun and is etymon derived from the Moorish Latin word intuitus, and it means to express or expresses as a look at and or looking at. Intuitive or intuition relates to the ability or the capacity to comprehend or to see something immediately and to grasp and comprehend the nature of, the intent of, or meaning of a thing. And intuition relates to the mind's extrasensory perception as applied to and of things, of beings, or of situations, etc. Intuition is associated to the acts or the faculty of knowing and or sensing, absent of and without the conjoining of reasoning or the usages of rational processes. Consider the nature of the mind in comprehending, knowing or no being, and akin to the cognate, quote unquote, I am, in relationship to the divine mind of the higher self, and less burdened with the constrictions imposed by dogmatic belief systems or political suppressions as socially imposed upon humanity through the ages. And for the most part, these said constrictions were formulated by a narcissistic and selfish group of priests and de facto rulers, most commonly referenced as, quote unquote, the bishopric, as associated with Rome. Reverting back to the word intuition, also consider a sense of something not materially immediate or cognate supports, or evident or deducible, and more in the nature of impression. Those among us who have arrived at or who demonstrate a less constricted approach to and an operative approach to the respect for the intuit or the intuitive mind are often referred to as intuits. Intuition. Synonyms of intuition are divination, clairvoyance, intuitiveness, seership, sixth sense, instinct, and the like, etc. And for purposes of lesson number 12, the superliminal, we present these for your consideration. A, the conscious mind. B, the subconscious mind. C, the supraconscious mind. In consideration of the conscious mind, we relate to the capacity of, the power of, and or the faculty of knowing one's own thoughts, of one's own mental operations, and of the knowing that man, the species hominidae, is a conscious being, capable of retrieving memory or without the extraneous information, etc., as not being conscious of the fact, etc. In consideration of the subconscious mind, we relate to that aspect of mind whereas one is deemed not wholly conscious or operatively not conscious or partially conscious. In consideration of the supraconscious mind, we relate to that aspect of the mind whereas one is noted as being mentally highly cognitive, etc. Supra relates to that which above is above, over, greater than, superior to, over, superior to, beyond, and transcending. In relationship to lesson number 12, the superliminal, we address some of the aspects of being or seeking to be above the limiting threshold of mere consciousness and or sensation, and more toward the higher mind or higher self, cognition, and the capacities associated with it, conjoined with the capacities to more stabilize the seeing or knowing achieved. A superliminal purpose notation for lesson number 12. This aspect of the superliminal, lesson number 12, is deemed as a counter invocation of God, acronym GOD, God or government order of divinity, as distinguished from God, the acronym government ordinance departments, as constructed via organized corporate civic orders of governments, as founded upon the three-dimensional planes of existence, both positive and negative. And thus we are distinguishing the divine or incorporeal and ethereal aspects of the corporeal aspects of our operative existence at Midgard Earth. Questions? And so a noted aspect of active superliminal mind. So we look at and consider this. There are three aspects of brain in incorporeal form and expressed in the corporeal physical body of man. The first aspect of the brain is via the physical brain organ located in the head. The second aspect of the operative brain is located in the physical heart of man. The third aspect of the operative brain is located in the physical stomach and gut of man. The brain is noted as the organic portion and part of the physical man that includes vertebrate central nervous system, which is enclosed within the cranium and is continuous with the spinal cord and composed of gray matter and white matter. Brain controls many bodily activities and is known as the seat of consciousness, of memory, and of emotions. Brain is noted for its intellectual abilities, intellectual powers of mind and of intelligence. An important aspect of divine being is to know that the three brains, the cranial, the heart, and the stomach gut, are electrically and incorporally connected. Now the questions. Why is it, with this being known factors about the human, why is it that the priesthood doesn't go into this as a lesson of everyday traditional custom and teaching or philosophy? And why is it when the priesthood or politicians or people in rulership suppress the knowledge of this, of the three brains and their connections in relationship to the masses in general? Well, my statement is this. The major reason is because they have misrepresented spirituality, they have deliberately misrepresented religion, they have deliberately misrepresented the true principles of honorable government, etc., for the purposes of enslaving humanity, and have artificially suppressed these aspects of knowledge relative to people knowing themselves in order that people would submit to things that are contrary to their best interest in both the spiritual and the physical aspects of life, period. That is a fact. And by people not being aware of the connection of the three brains, in fact, are less apt to resist or to reject misrepresentations of life, forms of life, their connections to each other, the fields, the electrical fields, and the incorporeal energy fields that connect us all, and thereby less apt to ascend to activating them and liberating ourselves from the dark priesthood who have been operating on or at Midgard for quite some time. And also with the knowing that the time would come relative to the cosmos, sometimes symbolized by the crescent and the star, that humanity would evolve even and in spite of artificial impressions or suppressions, and that we would go to higher planes of life, sometimes referred to as higher dimensions, and we would break free of the artificial bindings that have been put on humanity and at Midgard that's been operative for quite some time. And so due to also to the fact, the reality fact, the cosmos fact, that this energy, transition of energy, is already arriving on Earth, you will see a lot of things taking place relative to the de facto governing powers and the priesthood exercising more de facto powers to suppress humanity on multiple levels. However, in spite of all their activities, their institutions, which were created in the third dimensional planes, have limited or no effectual powers to continue in their existence in the degrees or the energies of the ascending, what you would call energies or dimensions or planes, etc. So at this time, we're experiencing a lot of the chaos that is going on for all institutions that were created or founded in the third dimensional energy, or what you call the Piscean age of, I believe, are being dismantled purposely and also by the forces of nature. So it's unavoidable. And so we're sharing some of the superliminal to help all of us along to start being cooperative with each other in the necessity of instituting and activating love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice functionally, and not just by verbal claim. And so the questions arise. What are some of them?
You mean in the chat? Let me see if anybody's asking anything. I'm pretty sure they're just listening. We're looking for questions with regard to what Grand Sheik just shared. But let me just add, I know you were talking about the three brains, and I was kind of like in two places at the same time. But I do know we have, you know, the brain, the one in our head, the one in our heart, the one in our gut.
That's the one you refer to most often.
Right, the one in our heart and the one in our gut. And a lot of times people say, I have a gut feeling. We talk about intuition.
Because that is the intuitive mind.
Right.
People know it and they don't know it at the same time.
Absolutely.
Meaning that it's rarely emphasized. Even though people, you know how this is where, so now you're dealing with consciousness, right? They know it, yet they're not cognizant. So that means that they're staying in the level of the subconscious mind, the chamber, the lower chambers.
Right.
And so when you're looking at even what you call circle 7, so you look at the circle of the head, right? You got 7 orifices, 2 orifices, the ears, 2 nostrils, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth.
Right.
That's 7 in that circle.
The
senses, name the senses.
Taste, touch.
They call them the 5, don't they?
Yeah.
Continue.
Smell,
hearing,
auditory, and what else is there? Taste, we touch, we see, sight.
Yep. Sight. All right, so now, when you start considering what they all represent, some are referenced as physical, but their actions are actually abstract. As an example, the sight here is an electrical reflection from the outside in, coming back like a cone that goes to the brain. The brain deciphers it and draws a picture. Therefore, this is why symbolism is used to speak to the brain from ancient time to present.
Absolutely, because sometimes some things like words might change or so forth, but symbols are more universal.
And this is also why many ancient symbols of Africa, Ikuta, and the Yucatan, are misrepresented by the priesthood as being negative, so that you would reject them and not liberate yourself from them. Yet they use them to empower themselves over the masses.
For instance, and we brought this up, I think I brought this up before in talking to, just giving some commentary to what you're saying. Traditionally, the symbol of the eagle.
Yes.
So
okay.
But the eagle has been given sort of what's the majestic animal. We're not going to negate the beauty and majesty of the eagle, but the symbolism universally for the eagle is war, control, government, and then by contrast, the serpent has been given the negative, when it's really, that's knowledge, wisdom, that's that kind of,
Now, yes, continue. Keep on. Whatever you feel, speak. Go ahead.
No, I'm just
put it out. No, put it out there, because don't hold anything back.
So so those things symbolically, I was looking at a show that actually was breaking down various hieroglyphic symbols that we see. So, for instance, many people have seen, and I know we're getting off subject a little bit, but many of us have seen the pictures of the hieroglyphs, and then you'll see sometimes it looks like they'll say, well, that's the Anunnaki, and they had bird heads, and they had human bodies and animal heads. The heads apparently always depict sort of like where that being who actually would be a human in this, if you will, in its appearance. Really, the head was symbolic of the mentality or the might or whatever the mission was. So when you saw an eagle or what looked like a bird, you see an ibis or whatever, you see the bird head, that was sort of like the eagle. So that was more governmental. When you see this, like I said, in the serpent, that was one that was giving knowledge. When you see them holding what looks like a pocketbook, and you see a lot of these things, and they're holding like something with a handle, that would have been like let me go back. The pine cones. You see some look like they're passing a pine cone. Well, the pine cone you see symbolic, and the Vatican uses it.
Those would be lessons.
Well, that's knowledge being passed on. And then the pocketbook or the whatever the purse it looked like would be like a tools. I'm giving you the knowledge to do it. Now here are the tools to do it. So they would be passing on knowledge and with information, and there needed to be the balance. You needed the
And
ego.
something is all those. The pocketbook is also referenced as the book as the bag of tricks, and it's also the bag of keys.
But yeah, because it was like there's always a balance, and so you did need both the ego, which is government, and the serpent, which is knowledge, because apparently a lot of the ancient civilizations evolved so highly at using just knowledge that when the negative, when the negative ego, I'm going to call it egalitarian type energies came in, they were able to overthrow them because they were warlike, and the other ones were using they were using their head, they were using their intuition and all these things.
Let's put it this way: one of the keys of the conquest of the ancient world are two. Just put two, because everything positive and negative is the way ancient ones of our forefathers, i.e., violating some of our own principles, and the hybrid or Germanic tribes overthrowing a peaceful people. As you see, war, or what you would call the respect for life, is a part and has always been a part of African Asiatic culture. And whereas in the nature of general operations, one of the principles of civilization is the keeping of your word, or the honor, the moral integrity of structure and of agreement, or what you call contract. One of the keys to the operative construction of de facto operations at Midgard has been those who chose to take the exact opposite and be what you call bloodletters or bloodshedders, coming as men of peace, but actually deceiving and practicing war. So you have two different characters of operations in nature. That is not to misrepresent or to say that those of our ancient mothers and fathers did not do what you call less than honorable things. So you understand. But the nature of the civilization principles of the ancient Lemurians, Canaanites, Moabites, based on the operations of cosmic order and the observations and maintenance of the divine laws of nature as a construct, and the order of government, knowing that via that preservation of those principles, you have longevity in civilization. Absolutely, you have what you call karmic collapse, or you would say the principle of reaping what you sow is often referred to as cause and effect, destruction. Much of what you see now. But again, this is again why sometimes when we're going over the problems of humanity at Midgard, particularly in these days, in your more contemporary times, we will remind the people to recognize some of the symbolisms that are in their native original Edamon nature of operation. As an example, Hela, or the eagle. It does mean ruler or overseer, because it actually symbolizes spirituality, because the Hela can look into the sun. Because remember, the nature and the culture and customs of the ancient Canaanite Moabite nation is what you would call the eye, or the people of the eye. And that is the seven senses. So when you deal with the five senses, you also have intuition and insight. Now, when they are conjoined as one, then you get the eye, what they call the eye of Horus, or the one seeing, or the all-seeing eye. Now, when or the divine eye of providence. After the Napoleonic Wars and the captive of the last of the Moabite popes, because originally the Vatican is actually originally African. People don't know that history because that's written out. It's particularly since 1863. And so you have Roma and you have Rome.
Give us a difference.
All right, Roma is pre Napoleon. Rome, that's Roma, Roma, pre-Napoleon. Rome, post-Napoleon. And this is where, like, when those who are more honest about history will tell the truth as to why they use Napoleon as you might say, as a reference point. But you understand that these are Roman armies in general. Went around the world shooting the noses and all identifiable constructive aspects of the ancient world off of statues and temples. They would blow temples up, destroy ancient papyri, etc. And that was the beginning of them reconstructing history, not just in reconstruction in North America. That's where that pattern has its origin. As an example, Aquila, or like you see in Iberia, where you see the double-headed eagle with the crown. That means the two sides of the brain, the left and the right side of the brain, and the cognizance of it in one bird. And the bird is one of the few of the species that can look directly into the sun and not be blinded, and also can turn its head 190 degrees, which is why you see the double-headed eagle. That's ancient Iberia, or what people assume to be today only, and this is a misrepresentation, the hybrid Germanic tribes in Germany is actually ours. So, and this is again when you deal with the true European, or we call Iberians, and why the dark priesthood and the scholars never talk about the fact that Europe is Phoenicia, i.e. Iberia, and that it's actually the extension of North Africa or the peninsula. And so in order to reconstruct history, they steal the history and kill off the Aboriginal people, i.e. the Picts, the Maoris, and the Dubs, and hide that history, particularly since the mid-1800s, just as they do in North America. And so as the people are presented with the history, many of our people will reject European history, not knowing it themselves, reject the knowledge of why we would have eagle feathers in our turbans and in our fezzes, which symbolize divinity or the ethereal world, symbolic. And also because particularly the Maghreb is also known as the temple of the moon and sun. So North America is referred to as the temple of the moon and sun. That's the culture. And of course, this is again when you hear these terms in the social engineering of the hybrid Europeans trying to separate Egypt from Africa. They not only mean Egypta on that side, they actually mean Egypt of the West, the Maghreb, or North America, and the truth of the connection of the two cultures, including to Yucatan, North, South, and Central North America, and including the true history of Hammurabi Bey and Hagar, who ruled Central America, yet they have a grave for Hagar at Mecca. But that's why they don't teach that history together. And also the matriarchy, which is an extension of the high court or the high house of the pharaohs, which is actually a matriarchy. And of course, from that comes the monarchy. And from the monarchies being overthrown is actually, in its truth, Africa and Asia, and the matriarchy structure of government being overthrown. And of course, that's given a negative too, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Well, yes.
From a standpoint of, though, going back to subject matter of intuition, what has happened to us to disconnect us from, or has anything occurred?
It's an artificial construct. This is what we're also established. Remember with the and as we've talked this many times, this is not new. Meaning that because basically truth, like we talked about before, has no versions. It's just simply what it is. And we're giving synopsis because that's all you can give. Synopsis, basically, of the chronology, the history, what got us to where we are today, what are the motivations the parties in controversy in relationship to the conquest of nations, as described in the Torah, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bible, in the Pentateuch, in Septuagint, etc. Or the battles of nations, and why the dark priesthood have been suppressing the issue of nationality, distinguished from what they refer to themselves as under the Inquisition operations as the God of this world, or owners of the globe, or globalists, all right? And why they've been killing off the Aboriginal people and then trying to claim Midgard, the earth. And of course, all the dynamics in between. And then, of course, things that are practiced now called censoring or demonetizing, blocking out, killing people's communications accounts are relative to indexus librorum expurgatorius and indexus librorium prohibitorum, which are known also but misrepresented as the great Christian book burners, because they're not Christians, they're Constantinians hiding behind Christianity. And one of the things that the dark priesthood have always done is that they've always practiced, and this is another way to use your superconscious mind to start looking at things through your gut, your heart, and your mind and your head, and conjoin them in order to empower yourself to intuit things, because that's why they don't teach you about that sense, because they know when you go there, you'll start solving problems in all of the idol god systems and all of the de facto government systems that people have put their faith in, including all of the fiat instrumentalities that's created to support these constructs, will in fact collapse, often known as the apostasy, also known as Armageddon, also known as the dying of the old world, of corruption of Satan, and the coming again of the Christ, or the crystallized mind, or the activation of Horus, or the eye, or the Cyclops, or the third eye activity, or the sixth sense, or at least minimally the fifth dimension, or sometimes referred to as the higher planes of life, all representing that same principle, or the anointing of the head with oil, also the ascension, also the kundalini, all symbolize humanity evolving into minimally the higher side of the fourth dimension, which also all things made manifest that shoot through the earth, including the transference of negative energy also, and the capacity to make that discernment so that we can go into the higher planes of light, qualified to come out of this bubble.